let's step back in time and dive into the life of Elizabeth Short, a young woman with jet black hair and a black dress that screamed defiance, chasing her Hollywood dreams in the glitz and grit of Los Angeles. She believed that stardom could warm the chill of her tough days growing up in Medford. But in 1947, that dream shattered in a horrific tragedy. The girl who wanted to be a star was found sliced in half in a vacant lot in Leimert Park. Her body, those wide-open eyes, seemed to beg for a story Hollywood still hasn't told. An unsent letter, a bouquet of flowers with no name, a haunting phone call. What were they? A promise of fame or a predator's trap? Did the bright lights of Tinseltown swallow her whole, or is there a darker secret still buried? Join me as we walk through Elizabeth Short's life, where hope tangled with fear, piecing together a puzzle that's never been solved, and ask ourselves, why does her truth still hide in the shadows? Chapter 1. When Hollywood was the only way out. At 5 years old, Elizabeth Short stood frozen by the window, watching her father, Cleo, vanish into the morning mist. Folks said he drove to a nearby lake and jumped in to end it all. But when they found his car, it was bone dry, not a drop of water. For the next 16 years, Elizabeth never spoke of him, not once. Was she hiding her pain or something she couldn't face? Medford, Massachusetts, in the 1930s, was a small town where golden leaves blanketed the streets and wooden houses stood shoulder to shoulder. In the cramped Short family home, Phoebe, Elizabeth's mother, raised 5 daughters alone with weary hands. The shadow of poverty loomed large, especially after Cleo walked out in 1929. Elizabeth, a little girl with sparkling blue eyes, battled asthma that stole her breath. Long coughing spells sent her to Florida each winter just to breathe easier. But back in Medford, she found refuge in a different place, the creaky old movie theater on Main Street. Little Elizabeth sat quietly in the theater's darkness, the screen's glow dancing in her wide eyes. Every time Bette Davis flashed a smile on screen, Elizabeth whispered, "Someday, that's gonna be me." But that light couldn't chase away Medford's cold or fill the hole her father left. A neighbor once said Elizabeth would sneak into the theater, clutching a diary where she scribbled dreams of escaping that town. On the last page, her shaky handwriting read, "I'm leaving. This place isn't for me." Those words later became evidence, or maybe an early last will. The Great Depression hit the Short family hard. Phoebe worked endlessly, but poverty made Elizabeth feel she was never good enough. She craved love, craved recognition, but the fear of being forgotten haunted her. Her father disappeared the same day Phoebe mentioned divorce, an odd coincidence. Or was it something Elizabeth never dared ask her mother? She kept those thoughts locked away, spilling them only into her diary, where she dreamed of a dazzling life where no one could abandon her. The 1930s were tough, especially for girls like Elizabeth who dared to dream beyond society's rules. Women were expected to stay home, raise families, not chase fame. But Elizabeth didn't want to be just another small-town girl. She wanted to be a star, unforgettable. That diary with its messy scribbles held her hopes and her pain. Why did a girl with such big dreams carry a fear of fading away? And that diary, could it hold the key to the whole mystery? Chapter 2. Adrift in Hollywood's heights and a mysterious call. They say when Elizabeth Short first arrived in Los Angeles, she stood at the train station for ages, not moving, not speaking, like she was waiting for someone. In 1943, at 18, with her glossy black hair and those piercing blue eyes, she carried her dream of becoming a Hollywood star. The neon-lit streets, smoky bars, and crowded audition waiting rooms, it was the world she'd always imagined. But Hollywood didn't exactly roll out the red carpet for her. Elizabeth took acting classes, squeezing into stuffy rooms where dozens of other young women fought for the same chance. She worked as a waitress, a cashier, leaned on friends' kindness, and bounced between boarding houses. Once, she auditioned for a small studio, wearing her favorite black dress, a talisman she believed would bring her luck. Standing before the directors, she flashed a radiant smile, but they shook their heads. "You're beautiful, but you lack experience." That black dress, stunning under the studio lights, was never worn again. Each rejection made time feel like it was slipping away too fast. In her boarding house room, she'd stand before a cloudy mirror, practicing smiles, lines, trying to mimic the stars she admired. But behind the makeup, her eyes grew hollow, as if the dream was consuming her. A friend said she'd mutter, "Just one break, that's all I need." Hollywood in the 1940s was a maze of opportunity and danger. Women were judged by their looks, and predators in the industry were always lurking. One night, a studio worker recalled Elizabeth getting a phone call in the corner of a waiting room. After hanging up, she sat still for nearly an hour, her gaze lost. Then she stood, left, and came back with red eyes but a forced smile. "It's fine, just a misunderstanding," no one pressed her. And Elizabeth never spoke of it again. Who called her a director promising a big role, or someone with something scarier in mind? She started showing up at bars, where flashy men offered drinks and empty promises of opportunities that never came. That black dress, once a symbol of hope, stayed folded in her suitcase, a reminder of her failures. Elizabeth wanted to be a star, but Hollywood seemed to want to use her. Each night, she returned to her room, staring into the mirror with unspoken questions. Could she keep going? Who was that man, a shot at a new life, or the first trap that led her to a bloody fate? Chapter 3: Love and Deadly Rumors. One night, Elizabeth Short walked out of a Los Angeles bar without her purse. No one knew why. She'd been laughing brightly with a strange man, her eyes sparkling under the dim lights. But as she stepped outside, her face hardened like she'd seen something terrifying. The bar door swung shut behind her, leaving whispers buzzing in the crowd. What happened in that moment? Elizabeth looked for love in the nightclubs, where cigarette smoke mingled with jazz. She met Mark Hansen, a club owner with a cold stare and an unreadable smile. Hansen gave her a place to stay, but it seemed he wanted to control her every move. A witness said he once argued with Elizabeth in a packed bar, his voice thick with jealousy, his hand gripping a glass tightly. She also met Robert Red Manley, a married salesman who drove her around the city and called her special. But Manley couldn't offer her a future, and her smile faded more each day. In those days, a suggestive glance in a bar could get you a bed for a few nights. But the cost. Not everyone dared talk about it. Elizabeth leaned on men for money or a place to stay, and that sparked cruel gossip. Once, a Long Beach bartender found a letter in Elizabeth's bag, addressed to an unnamed soldier, full of unfinished words of love. Some lines were scratched out, some words unreadable like she'd changed her mind mid-sentence. Oddly, the letter had no address. Was she writing to remember someone or to hide something? That letter later became a clue no one could fully crack. Elizabeth longed to be loved, but her relationships only brought pain. One night, in a bar's corner, she whispered to a friend, her voice almost pleading, "There's a man. He won't leave me alone. I'm scared." Her friend thought she was just tired, worn out from Hollywood's long nights. But 3 days later, Elizabeth vanished. That whisper, like a warning, echoed in her friend's mind. Who was the man she feared? Hansen with his jealousy, Manley with his promises, or another shadow she didn't dare name? 1940s society was harsh on women like Elizabeth. They were judged for talking to men, called easy just for trying to survive. But she didn't give up. She kept walking into those bars, carrying fragile hope and growing fear. That unsent letter, that frightened whisper, they're pieces of a puzzle still incomplete. Did one of those men betray her? Or did Elizabeth step too close to a darker shadow she couldn't escape? Chapter 4: Pressure from All Sides and the First Signs of Danger. By day, Elizabeth Short smiled at everyone on the streets of Los Angeles, radiant, like a rising star. But at night, in her cramped rented room, she curled up, listening to cars pass by her window, whispering, "I'm fading away." The room, with its peeling wallpaper and creaky bed, was where she faced herself. Hollywood, with its glittering lights, had promised so much, but now it left her with rejection after rejection. Elizabeth moved from one boarding house to another, living off friends' kindness, standing before directors with a forced smile. Each audition rejection chipped away at her dream. In a letter to a friend, she wrote, "I'm afraid I'll never be good enough." Those words cut her like a knife. Her mother, Phoebe, back in Medford, sent letters full of disappointment. One arrived with a line scratched out, "You're not the daughter I was once proud of." Elizabeth tore the letter but kept the top half, tucking it into a notebook by her bed, as if holding on to a piece of lost love. People saw her walk into bars and shook their heads. A single woman, no husband, no kids. Wearing red lipstick at midnight, they called her lost. But Elizabeth called it her last hope. She still wore her elegant black outfits, stepping into smoky rooms, searching for a chance, someone to change her life. But each time she left, the loneliness grew heavier. A friend, Anne Toth, said Elizabeth once confessed, "I feel haunted by my own dream." One night, Elizabeth told a friend something that made her tremble. "Someone stood outside my door for an hour. I heard shoes dragging, then silence. The next day, a scrap of paper was found in her room, scrawled with 'Meet me at the usual place.' No name, no signature. Some say the police destroyed it to avoid a media frenzy. Was it a note from a friend? Or a sign of danger closing in? Elizabeth might have felt watched, but she didn't run. She kept walking, as if hope was all she had left. The 1940s didn't go easy on women like Elizabeth. They were expected to be gentle, settled, raising kids at home. But she wouldn't give up. She stood before her mirror, put on lipstick, and smiled. Though her eyes held invisible cracks, her despair grew, like a shadow creeping into her sleep. Did that despair make her vulnerable? Or was she hiding a bigger secret? Did that despair open the door to a predator? Or was Elizabeth carrying a secret she never wanted anyone to know? Chapter 5, The Final Days. She sat quietly in the Biltmore Hotel lobby, hands trembling, eyes glued to the clock. A staff member recalled. She looked like she was counting down to something. In early January 1947, Elizabeth Short appeared in Los Angeles wearing that familiar black dress, her lucky charm, as if she were playing the final scene of her Hollywood dream. But her eyes no longer sparkled. They were filled with worry, as if she knew something was coming. Elizabeth's last days were a whirlwind of instability. She crashed with friends, had no fixed home. A diner waitress near the Biltmore said Elizabeth ordered a coffee, clutching her bag. Her gaze distant, she looked like she was running from something. She seemed to be waiting for one last chance, maybe a role, or someone to change her life. A hotel worker overheard her on the phone on January 8th. "I'll meet you, but this is my last shot." Those words sounded like an omen. One morning, Elizabeth received a bouquet of flowers at the Biltmore from a stranger. A blank card, no words. The police later found no fingerprints on it. She kept the flowers but said nothing, just left quietly. Was it a romantic gesture or something sinister? She still wore that black dress, as if clinging to a faded dream. But Hollywood, with its lights and promises, wasn't her home anymore. She was exhausted, torn between hope and fear. In her final nights, she'd sit alone, staring out windows, listening to passing cars. A friend said Elizabeth once murmured, "I don't know how much longer I can keep going." Did she sense the shadow approaching? Or did she still believe a new door would open? That black dress, once a symbol of hope, now seemed a reminder of failures she couldn't escape. That meeting at the Biltmore, was it her last chance or the trap she walked right into? Chapter 6, A Horrific Tragedy. A bloodless body lay in a vacant lot, eerily neat, arms stretched out, a smile carved into a twisted line. Elizabeth Short dreamed of being an actress, but in the end, she performed for the police. On the morning of January 15th, 1947, in Leimert Park, Los Angeles, her body was found, cut in half, drained of blood, posed like a sick work of art. Someone had wiped away the blood, but not her wide-open eyes frozen in a shattered dream. The Black Dahlia case shook America. The precision of the cuts suggested a killer with medical knowledge, pointing police toward Dr. George Hodel. In a chilling 1949 wiretap, he said, "Suppose I did kill the Black Dahlia. No one could prove it." His words sent shivers. Mark Hansen, the nightclub owner, was also a suspect, his dramatic, jealous fights with Elizabeth fueling suspicion. Some believed it was the work of a serial killer, tied to cases like the lipstick murders. The tabloids turned Elizabeth into a tragic icon, dubbing her Black Dahlia after her favorite black dress and the film The Blue Dahlia. But they overshadowed her ambitions, making her a sensational story, a mysterious letter, signed Dahlia's Killer, arrived at a newspaper on January 24th, containing Elizabeth's address book. The killer taunted the police, but the clues led nowhere. Was it a sick joke or a real confession? That black dress, once her hope, appeared in a crime scene photo, like a faded loop. The brutality suggested Elizabeth knew her killer, enduring unimaginable pain. Hollywood, with its glamour and dark corners, had devoured her dream. Her eyes, wide open in death, seemed to hold a story never told. Was it someone she loved or a name never written in the case files, and why? Does this secret stay buried? Epilogue, a legacy and an enduring mystery. She came to Hollywood with a smile. She left in silence. No goodbyes. But Elizabeth Short's name remains a deep cut in America's memory, from Medford's cold streets to Los Angeles's neon glow. Her journey is about a girl craving love, recognition, caught in a harsh world. The 1947 Black Dahlia murder isn't just an unsolved mystery. It's a warning about dreams crushed by prejudice and cruelty. Elizabeth's death rocked the entertainment world. From true crime podcasts to noir films, the Black Dahlia became Hollywood's shadow. In 2000, a Medford street was named Dahlia Way in quiet tribute. The case also pushed reforms in how the LAPD handled missing persons, though too late for her. Elizabeth's story is a lesson about the cost of fame, about a 1940s society that judged women for dreaming big. She wasn't the party girl the papers painted. She was a young woman with hopes and hurts, trying to find her place in a world not built for her. That black dress, the unsent letter, the nameless flowers, they're pieces of a puzzle never finished. And the questions linger. That love letter in her bag, the mysterious Biltmore call. Her wide eyes in death, what do they mean? Was Dr. Hodel, with his chilling confession, or Mark Hansen, with his jealousy, the killer, or, as some folks on Reddit guess, a nameless stranger who was there that final night, who snuffed out her dream, and why? After all these years, do we still not know what happened? Picture Elizabeth, standing under a bar's dim lights, smiling brightly but with worried eyes. She didn't know her dream would lead to a nightmare. Her story lives on, not just as a mystery, but as a reminder sometimes. The brightest lights get swallowed by the darkest shadows.